In today's video, I'm going to be making a super easy and simple card using an embossing folder with absolutely stunning results. Stay tuned.
You are what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for.
So I'm going to start out with this Gina K Designs Snowflake embossing folder. I'm not going to be using any fancy tools here today. This is going to be a really easy card with an extra special look. So I'm going to pop a piece of Gina K Designs layering weight white cardstock into this embossing folder. And I'm using my Gemini Junior die cutting machine to emboss today. And I'm just putting 2 of the cutting plates. I'm not putting anything else, just 2 cutting plates. Depending on your machine, you might need an extra piece of cardstock or a shim. But for my Gemini, I just need 2 plates and that's it. So I run this through and then look at this beautiful impression that we get. It's such a gorgeous design and I love snowflakes. I love any snowflake card. So I'm going to take this background and I'm going to step it up just a little. I'm going to grab a couple of ink pads. I've got Gina K Designs Lovely Lavender and Gina K Designs Powder Blue. I've got my cardstock on a piece of scrap paper here and I'm just going to drag the ink pad over top of the embossed images. I'm not pressing too hard because I don't want it to get on the background. I want the background to stay white. But I want to blend these 2 colors together. So I'm going to take my powder blue ink pad and drag it all around the cardstock as well. So I haven't covered the entire panel with either color. I'm just sort of mixing the colors together and letting them go where they want to go. And right now this looks a little bit dark, but as they dry back, the colors are very soft. So I'm just rubbing these ink pads and I felt like I needed a little bit more of Lovely Lavender. The powder blue kind of took over. So I'm just going back, rubbing right over top of those images, and this dries very quickly. For this technique, the next thing I'm going to use is a hand sanitizer wipe. I think you can probably use a baby wipe for this too. I just have these alcohol wipes beside me and I'm going to rub over top of the embossed inked images. And what this is going to do is it's going to kind of blend the colors together and soften that ink. So it looks very creamy and pastel-y. Like I said, you could definitely try this with a baby wipe, but I'm just using a regular old hand sanitizer wipe. I'm sure we've all got tons of those laying around from our COVID leftover days. I like to keep this container of alcohol wipes so I can clean up in my craft room. If I get ink on anything, it's a quick and easy wipe up. So I'm going to grab my heat tool and I'm going to help heat set this, and you can really see that softness really popping out of that cardstock. I like the way that these 2 colors blend, and then adding that little bit of alcohol over top to kind of turn this into a watercolor looking background. It's really cool. So I'm going to grab some heavy things and set them on top of my panel while it dries the rest of the way. It's curled up a little bit from being wet and then heat set and embossed. It's been through a lot at this point. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab a sentiment. I've got this Merry Christmas word, and this is from the Gina K Designs Silly Sweaters stamp set. This came in the most recent Gina K card kit. And I've got a couple of tools here. I've got a scrap of black cardstock. I've got some anti-static powder bag, and I've got some silver embossing powder. I've got my black scrap laid out on top of a scrap piece of paper here. And I've got some Versamark ink. I'm going to ink up my sentiment and make sure that it's good and inked. I haven't used this yet before, so I decided to take my finger and rub over it a little bit to remove any excess manufacturing residue. And then I'll ink up again with the Versamark ink. And I'm not sure if I mentioned I used my anti-static powder bag on this black cardstock. And then I'm just going to stamp that image on there, making sure that I get it as straight as possible. We can trim this up later on. I'm going to grab some reverse tweezers to help me hang on to this little piece of cardstock here. And I'll sprinkle my Gina K Designs Fine Detail Silver Embossing Powder over top of my image, and I'll tap off any excess. And I'll funnel the rest of that embossing powder back into the jar. And then we're going to heat set this sentiment until it's smooth and melted. So you can see the granules turning shiny And you don't want to leave it on there too long because we don't want to burn anything. So that looks good. I'm happy with that. I'm going to pop this into my trimmer and trim off those edges so that we have a nice, perfect, straight Merry Christmas. I'm using a Tonic Studios trimmer here, and I like the little guide on here. I always use this trimmer for sentiments because I can use the plastic edge of the guide and line up the end of my letters with that plastic guide, and then I know I'm going to get perfectly straight strips every time. So next I've got a piece of black cardstock, and I'm just cutting this down to 1/8 of an inch bigger than my panel. My panel is going to be 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to trim all those down, and I'm going to keep those extra pieces of embossed background. I'm going to use those up in a minute. I'm going to adhere my embossed panel using some liquid glue, and I'm going to glue that to my black background. I think liquid glue is good here because it can get into those little crevices and it'll help hold that cardstock down if there are any ripples or anything in it. So this type of adhesive is a good choice for this textured background. All right, so I'm going to line that up, and once I'm happy with that, I'm going to glue this panel straight down onto my card base. And then we have a beautiful white border around the edge, and then we have those beautiful soft sort of periwinkle colors, really pretty. All right, so I'm going to take a piece of that leftover scrap embossed snowflake, and I'm just going to line it up on the inside of my card. I'm going to run it across the far edge from top to bottom. I'll glue that in, and then we're going to glue down this Merry Christmas. I don't want to add too much to the front of this card because I really love the soft results. So I've just glued down that Merry Christmas to the right side, not quite centered, but just a little off so that it's got some interest. And then I've got these cute little gems that have some iridescent sparkle. I'm going to glue those down to my card, but first I wanted to take a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and I wanted to paint over top of my snowflakes with that sparkle pen. So you can see this sort of the vibrancy coming back for a quick second as we paint. When the ink gets a little wet, it starts to be quite vibrant again, but it'll soften back up in just a moment. But this sparkle pen is going to add tons of shimmer and shine to my snowflakes. Now I'm not able to catch it in my camera. I can't catch the quite the right angle of light when I'm trying to show this to you, but it does look so sparkly in real life. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm happy with the results there, and now I'm just going to take my liquid glue and start popping little beads of adhesive in the center of these snowflakes. And I've got some different sizes. I've got some big ones and some little ones, and I'm just scattering them around randomly in the center of these snowflakes. And then that's it. This card is complete. I'm going to take that last little scrap and do a little something something with my envelope. I've got a Gina K Designs lovely lavender envelope that's coordinating absolutely perfect with this card. So I'm just going to cut a little piece here. It's about 1 inch, and I'm going to create a little banner. Now I always have trouble with these little banners, but somebody on YouTube told me in the comments to try cutting a little more shallow. So I did try that, and I was happier with that. I didn't cut so deep up into the paper, and I liked the result there. So I've got some liquid glue, and I'm going to adhere this down to my envelope. And the last little piece, I'm going to kind of angle it across the bottom left corner of my envelope. This is going to be a hand-delivered card, so I'm not worried about it getting in the way of postage or anything like that. So I'm just going to line this up over the corner and trim off the excess little pieces, and then that's going to be it. And now if you'll notice, I did get my envelope upside down. Hopefully the recipient won't notice. It is what it is. I can't fix it. It's already glued down, so I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to stress about it. All right, and that's going to be it. This card and envelope project is complete. The results here are absolutely stunning. I love this color palette and the coordinating envelope. It's just perfect. Here's a close-up look at our finished card project. All the products that I used in today's video will be linked in the description box down below, so if you do decide to make a purchase, please use my links as it helps support my channel. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I appreciate the support as always. Coming up on screen is a video I think you may enjoy. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!